Inventor, create this part. Now this part was taken from a book called Basics of Mechanical Drawing. Pretty old school, probably from the 80s, and I took a picture of it, and we are going to create it in 3D in Inventor. So the way that Inventor works is with sketches and with features. Now features are what's going to make it three-dimensional, or what's going to actually give your 2D sketch shape. So in this one we're going to be using extrude. In other drawings you might be using revolve, loft, hole, fillet. They're all giving different features to your design. Your sketches refer to the 2D shape that your part has to begin with. So if you hover over any one of these parts, it tells you exactly how it functions and what the end result is. So the first thing that I want to do when I'm making this part is I want to figure out how I'm going to tackle it. Now I can do this a few different ways, but I think the most obvious way is going to be to start off with this base shape here and then add on this shape, and this shape. So I'm going to go ahead and get started and do that. So I'm going to start by making a new 2D sketch, and I'm going to make it on my XZ plane. So I'm looking at it from the top view. And what I like to do is I'm going to just sketch out that basic shape of the base. So right now I'm not adding any dimensions. I'm just mapping out the basic shape. Alright, so that looks good. Now what I'm going to do is I know that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different holes here. There are 3 holes, 1, 2, 3, that have a 1/2 inch diameter, and they're drilled, so that means it goes all the way through. Now I also have 2 holes that are in the middle here. One of them is a hidden line because it's behind this part, we can't see it, that are 0.625 inches in diameter. So I'm going to go ahead and map those out. So now I have this one at 0.5. I have 2 more of those. Then I have a couple more in here, 0.65, 0.65. Now they look really small in here, and the reason for that is because we haven't dimensioned anything else yet. So let's go ahead and put down the placement of these holes. So if I look over here, I look at the center marks on these circles, and if I follow the extension line out, I know that they're 0.75 inches, or 3/4 of an inch, away from the corner. This one is 1 inch away from this side and 0.75 inches from this point. So I will go ahead and put that in as well. I recommend that you do the same. So I will click on the center mark of the circle, go over here to this back piece. Let's put in 0.75 and then do 0.75. And don't worry if it doesn't line up right away. And this one is 1 inch, and then it's 0.75 inches from here. Good. So once we have that, I think the next logical thing to do is going to be to dimension these corners here. So if we go and look at our drawing, again we'll follow our extension lines out, and they're both 0.75 inches. So you follow the extension lines from the segment. And sometimes people have a difficult time dimensioning this. So I'm going to click on this point, and bring it up. And what you don't want to do is you don't want to click on the line and drag it out. Sometimes it'll go off in a diagonal, and that's what you want to avoid. So let's see if it does it for me. Doesn't do it for me here, but if that happens to you, be aware of it. Alright, so 0.75, 0.75. Looks good so far. Now, it looks like we need to start looking at the rest of our piece here. So, I know that the overall width of my piece is 8.75 from this back edge to this edge. Keep in mind, this 8.75 is going all the way to the back of the piece, not to this point here. So you have to follow that extension line up. I also know that the overall width, or depth, however you look at it, of my piece is 4.75, and I look at that up here. So let's dimension that now. Oh, that's okay if that happens. Okay, so what ended up happening here was all of these pieces got scooched over. So I'm actually going to go ahead and just delete these holes for now. And if you want, we can just remake them over here. They didn't have any constraints on them, so that's why they moved. All right, so now let's go ahead and start dimensioning some of these pieces and figure out their location. So if we go back here, I know that this hole from the center is 0.5 inches from the base of the piece and 0.75 inches from the side. So I know that this is 0.5 inches from the base and 0.75 inches from the side. Now, while I was over here, I can also see that the height of this segment, if I follow those extension lines out, is 1.5. So I'll go ahead and dimension that as 1.5. And it's looking a little bit better, but we need to do some work up here. Now, what I'm going to do is, since so many of these dimensions are based on these two vertical pieces, I'm going to add in 2 construction rectangles. So we can start planning out the rest of the piece here. So I'm going to go up to my rectangle tool, turn on my construction line, and let's draw one here, and let's draw one over here. Now keep in mind, these aren't dimensioned yet, I'm just drawing out arbitrary rectangles. Now I know that the width of both of these rectangles is 0.5. I want you to be aware this is actually a rare scenario where we have a typo here. This is not 1.5, this is 0.5. That's also noted right here as well. So let's go ahead and make those 0.5. All right, good. Now, I also know that there's this forgotten dimension down here, that from this side, this is a hidden line because we can't see the other side, from this side of this part to the point up here, I have a little gap of 0.125 inches, and that's important. So I'm going to dimension that. So from this point to this point, that's 0.125 inches. All right, good, good, good. Let's try this over here so it's a little easier to see. Okay, now for the fun stuff. I already have this 0.5 and 0.75 dimensioned. Now I can dimension this 1.875 inches. So from the center point to the edge of this piece. So I'm going to go to my dimension, go from here to here. They're really close right now. Type in 1.875. Looking good. We already have my 0.5 here. And now I know that in between, the space in between these two parts is 2.75. So let's go ahead and dimension that. From here to here is 2.75. And now I know that from the center of this circle to the center of my 0.625 inch drill, I have a dimension of 3.75. So let's put that in. Cool. And this should also be 3.75 because they're in line with each other. All right. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. This can be a little hard to read. I know that the space in between these two circles here is 3 inches, but I also have another arrow that's connected with this dimension line. So from the edge to the center of the circle up here is a total of 3.75. So what that means is that this segment here is 3, like we said, but if we do some easy math here to make that 3.75, I know that from the base to the center of this circle has to be 0.75 inches. So if you go from the center of this circle all the way down, you're going to see that you have that dimension of 3.75. If you try and put it in, it'll say driven dimension. It already exists, so you can just say cancel. All right, cool. Moving right along. So we also know that these circles have to be centered based on the center line here, in between these two parts. So what I'm going to do is I am going to dimension this circle to this side, and it looks like it's actually already there. But what you would do is you'd say 2.75 divided by 2, and that would make a nice center line for you right there. All right, a couple more, and then we're almost done. Last thing is I know from the center of this circle to the center of this one over here, I have a dimension of 3.5, so let's put that in. And boom, that's already there for us as well. So looks like we are ready to extrude. So let's just go ahead and check a couple dimensions here. Looking good, looking good. I don't think I've forgotten anything. So if we go back to our drawing, we know the height of this drawing is 0.5 inches. So we're going to right click and we are going to finish our 2D sketch. You can also do that up here. You are going to hit E on your keyboard for extrude, or you can go up to your extrude button here. If you want to maximize that tab, that's fine. You're going to click on the profile you want to extrude and make sure you type in 0.5. Perfect. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to make a new 2D sketch on the surface. And I am going to do the same process. So I'm going to extrude up 2 rectangles, here and here. And I'm going to use subtractive process of modeling to get rid of some of these shapes I don't need. So the dimensions for that, you actually already know. So I know that the width of this is 0.5. I know that the width here is 0.5. I know that we have this little gap here that we can't forget about, which dimension that to 0.125. I know the distance in between these two parts is 2.75, I believe. Let me double check that. Yep, 2.75. And I know that we have to extrude them up. So now you might think, oh, I have to extrude it up 0.425, but that's where you are wrong. This 4.25 is going all the way to the bottom of the part. You notice that extension line is going right to that hidden line there. So what we want to do is we want to subtract the height of this base piece that we already have to get the height of just this part alone. So that'll be 4.25 minus 0.5, which will give us 3.75. So let's right click, finish 2D sketch. Let's extrude this guy and this guy. We'll say 3.75, press enter, and we're good to go. Cool. So now we have to change up the shape a little bit. So I'm going to start a new 2D sketch on this surface. Now Inventor likes to work with closed objects. So I know that there's this, oops, need a line tool. I know that there's like a triangle shape that we need to extrude out here. I know there's another triangle shape that needs to get extruded out over here. And I know that there's also a circle in the center. Now, again, this is not dimensioned, but I will go back to my drawing, and you'll see that we have like this triangle shape. We have this triangle shape in the circle. I know that the height of this piece here is 1 inch. I know the diameter of my circle is 1.5 inches. There's 2 holes, they go all the way through. I know that this little chamfered area right here, this angle, is 0.75 inches. And I also know that the location of the circle is 1.5 inches from the side and 1.5 inches from the top. So I know that was a lot of information, but I'm going to do that really fast. Feel free to take your time to go back to that drawing and check out what I mean. I'm going to make a point down there so it's easy for me to dimension this line. There we go. This is 1. I know this segment, oops, this segment here from here to here is 1.5. I know this segment is 0.75. And I also know it's 0.75 from here. Last thing a couple more things I want to do is the diameter of the circle is 1.5. And from the center of the circle to the top, it's 1.5 inches. And from the center of the circle to the back of the piece is also 1.5 inches. Awesome. Now I'm going to right click, finish 2D sketch, and I want to extrude these pieces out. Now, this is going the wrong way. So what we want to do is we want to change our option here to cut. You'll see that it turns red. And that means that the material is being removed. If it's green, it means that the material is being joined, and we don't want that. So we want it to be cut. So we're going to say OK. So now this is looking pretty good so far. We have one more piece to do, which is this part right here. Now I know that it's flush with the side of this shape, and it goes all the way out. It's 0.5 inches from the bottom, and also 0.5 inches off the side of this piece. It's also 1.875 inches from this side of this, from the front of this part. So let's go ahead and map that out. I'm going to start a new 2D sketch on this top surface. So let's go ahead and get my rectangle tool. I'm just going to draw a line here. Now we didn't look at the width. The width of this piece can be found right here, 0.375 inches. So let's put in 0.375. Dimension from here to the front is 1.875. And now we're going to finish our 2D sketch. We are going to extrude this piece up only 3 inches. That's the height that we were given here. And now we're going to do another subtraction method. So if we start a new 2D sketch on the surface, we're going to draw out the shape that we want to get rid of. We can go back here and dimension it. So I know that that space should be 0.5, and this space here, again, you might need to put a point so you have somewhere to dimension to. You see how it turns green? That's the intersection. From here to here, this is also 0.5. So you guessed it, finish 2D sketch, go to my extrude. We know it's the wrong direction, we want to cut that and say OK. And that is your finished part. Now, if you want to check yours against mine, you can right click on your part in your browser, go down to your eye properties, go over to physical. We're going to do a physical property analysis. You want to update that, and these are this is what you should get for your mass, area, and volume. Your volume is going to be the most important here. Your volume is not going to change depending on the material. Neither should your area, but you should get that 31.987 inches cubed. And that's the tutorial. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope it helped. And good luck in your future CAD skills.